in Almighty God, even the all-creating and Almighty God, and you are one of a kind. To the organizers of this wonderful 2017 Global Humanitarian Summit, I want to say thank you for inviting me. I want to particularly thank Emory University for their generosity and stewardship in providing the resources to make this conference possible. This is a movement of a humanitarian agenda, and together we have accepted the call to action to make a difference in the lives of all humanity. Today, we summon all humanitarian people of faith, all creed, and all nations to come together for the unity of mankind, peace, and love. Please give Emory University a rousing applause. Thank you, the organizers. Thank you, Emory University School of Medicine, and thank God Almighty for such a moment and time like this. I really love you. On behalf of the A.D King Foundation, named after my esteemed, beloved husband, I am extremely grateful. And I also want to extend my gratitude to Dr. Shulman, a great humanitarian, Dr. Onabanjo, President and CEO of the A.D King Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, I have just returned from the motherland, the most populous black country in the world, Nigeria. With a population of about 180 million people, it was a wonderful experience, but a dish of two worlds, the rich and the poor, coexisted in the same space of luxury and extreme poverty. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. fought against three evils: poverty, racism, and war of violence. Ladies and gentlemen, not much has changed towards eradicating these incredible evil dilemmas. We must continue to declare war on these three evils as global humanitarians. Did you hear that? I am Mrs. Naomi Ruth Barber King, sister-in-law of Dr. Christine King Farris, Mrs. Coretta Scott King, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and the wife of Reverend A.D. Williams King, who was the love of my life. Let us pray. God of Abraham, God of Isaac, and God of Jacob, God of our weary years, and God of our silent tears, we thank you, God, for your mercy, your goodness, your kindness, your faithfulness, your grace, your protection, and your blessing in each of our lives. We remain true to you, God. We give you honor, praise, and glory. And all God's children say, amen. Amen. We live in a world of uncertainty each day as the sound of war keeps raging in our consciousness. May it be impending conflict with Russia, the war in Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, or the potential of nuclear war in North Korea. Freedom is never won permanently. It must be sustained by every generation. We cannot afford to be silent, passive, or indifferent. As humanitarians, we must be the defender of peace. We must replace hate with love and darkness with light. We must prevent and end conflict. This is our first and foremost responsibility in humanity. We must transform lives by empowering our youth to be agents of positive transformation. We must invest humanity. This must be our commitment. I'll say that again. This must be our commitment. During the civil rights movement of the 60s, we were humiliated beyond any righteous human imagination. We faced powerful water hoses, billy clubs, dogs, police brutality, and many toils and danger of imaginable proportion and dimensions. However, A.D. and ML would always remind us that this was a spiritual movement. We were thought to believe in the power of nonviolence, social change backed by our prayers and our faith as weapons of defense. Today, we must stand up for righteousness, for justice, freedom, for equality, for fairness, for decency, for good leadership, for civil rights, for human rights, for our dear children, for each other, and for our nation. After the bombing of the Birmingham 16th Street Church, in which 4 little children were killed, 2 of the 4 girls were Alvida's classmate, my first daughter. A.D. King felt that the struggle strategy must change and the youth must take the front seat. A.D. King, my beloved husband, came home determined more than ever to involve the children, and he said to me, "Prepare the children for the battle ahead. They are now to play a leading role. As a mother, I was afraid for my children because the danger was real. Seeing the devastating effect of the Birmingham bombing and later the bombing of our home. As a result of the leadership of my husband and the perceived effectiveness of the magnificent demonstrations organized by the community leaders, such as Reverend Shuttlesworth, Reverend Smith, Reverend Wood, Reverend A.D. Williams King, and many others. We are now at a crossroad in America, and it's a matter of urgency to take a stand and make a difference. Vote, exercise your power, exercise your right, exercise your civic responsibility, and be a proud American. Your vote is mightier than guns and weapons of mass destruction. God did not give you the spirit of fear, but a wisdom and a sound mind. So exercise it judiciously. I said exercise it judiciously. Reverend A.D. King would line up his children and the children of his church congregation, and thousands and hundreds would follow. This changed the strategy of the movement and became a force and unstoppable movement. We are building a movement, the Global Humanitarian movement, which seeks to reduce suffering and deliver better living conditions for people around the globe. This is a task that must be done by every one of us. During the civil rights movement of the 60s, it was not easy, but we persevered. The police became powerless, but sometimes they would use tear gas, billy clubs, dogs, water, hoses, and brute force to dismiss the demonstrations. Are we not today repeating history? Think about it. We must not turn the clock backward and reverse the gains fought with the blood of our martyrs, such as notable people as M.L. King, A.D. King, Viola Louiseau, the 4 little girls of Birmingham, Alabama, and so many, many more. A.D. King would always make sure that the children were protected as they were quickly removed from harm's way or perceived danger as quickly as possible. Sometimes some were arrested and had to be released within 24 hours without bail, and it became an economic strategy and effective in many ways. The inhuman treatment of our kids were televised all over the world, which caused many to question the moral fiber of our nation to the world. Again, a repeat of history, but we must be vigilant and not rest on our laurels. Think about it. Do not rest on our laurels. Now, it's time to change our curriculum to be inclusive and teach the African American history in our elementary, middle, and high schools. We are people of a great heritage and pride. Education is about impacting knowledge, skills, and building capacity through our collective knowledge, skills, and building capacity through our collective experience. Let's keep Dr. King's dream alive. Let's continue to build a beloved community with justice, equality, and peace as the center core. Please volunteer and visit our website, www.adkingfoundation.com. Your support would be greatly appreciated to sustain our youth empowerment activities and programs. Everybody has a story. If you don't tell your story, it may not get told. I would like to share a story about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his beautiful wife, Coretta Scott King, parented 4 beautiful children. Yolanda Denise, who is deceased, Martin Luther King III, Dexter Scott King, and Bernice King, who is the CEO of the King Center. Yolanda and I were born on the very same date, November 17, 1955 for Yolanda, November 17, 1931 for me, and you can do the math. I was so excited to know that I had a niece born on my birthday, and so I said to my beloved husband, I said, A.D., I've got to go to Montgomery and show Yogi, as we called her, some love. So I went to Montgomery, Alabama to do just that, to show Yolanda some love. It was late one night, about 10:30 or 11 o'clock in the evening, and I was seated in the living room of their home, and Corey, as we call her, was attending to Yoki. And I was just sitting there thanking God for all of His love, His grace, and His mercy when ML came in, and all of us had nicknames pretty much. So yeah, he was ML to us, and I was Nene to him. So when he came into the living room of their home, I was glad he couldn't see my face because, as I said, the living room was dark. ML went straight to his mantle, and he put his hand on the mantle and he was talking. And I noticed that when he turned around, that his shirt collar was open and he was dangling at his throat. And so I wondered, I said, what in the world is wrong with his mouth? So he looked at me and he turned around and he said, Nene? I said, yes, ML. He said, do you know what happened to me? I said, no. What happened to you, ML? He said, I was detained at the police station, and Nene, they tried to choke me to death with my tie. And I could figure that his throat was a little sensitive because he kept fooling around like that. And he said, yeah, Nene, they tried to choke me to death with my tie. And the next thing he said to me floored me. He said, Nene, he said, you know, he said that the more that they abuse us as a people, the more that hatred is alive, the more that hunger and war and all of the rest of the evils in the world exist. He said, Nene, he said, that's the more that we've got to forgive them and love them. And people, I will have you know that it was at that juncture when I looked at ML, and as he's continued to talk, that he would become the leader that he became to the world in the story.